Welcome everyone back to the official Quantum Resistant Ledger channel, your video portal into post-quantum digital asset security. So today we have a special episode with Kaushal Kumar Singh. He is our lead developer on the Quantum Resistant Ledger project. The topic today is going to be proof of stake. The questions were submitted through Discord and we're going to answer them for you today. So I talked to Kaushal a little bit before this interview so that I could understand a little bit more about his background. In the year 2015, Kaushal became fascinated with the idea of blockchain and cryptocurrencies in general, and shortly after that, he moved full-time professionally into this space. Since then, he works to innovate blockchain technology and also believes that blockchain has a lot of potential to disrupt different sectors and bring transparency and security to different platforms and different industries. Kaushal holds a Bachelor of Technology in Computer Science and Engineering and an MBA in Finance from KIIT University. So, as I mentioned, this video is going to be about proof of stake, and we're going to answer your questions. So let's jump on the phone and let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. This is Michael Strike, and on the phone I have Kaushal Singh, lead developer at the Quantum Resistant Ledger project. Kaushal, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
Very good. So, as you know, as I think you're aware, we have some questions from our community, specifically regarding proof of stake. For any newcomers, proof of stake is on our roadmap to migrate away from proof of work. It's the consensus algorithm that QRL 2.0 would be going towards. So I've collected some questions here. We're going to run through them. Hopefully have a little bit of fun along the way. Does that sound good, Kaushal?
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
Awesome. So the first question we have is if proof of stake in Enclave will be released before smart contracts, will the atomic swap feature, ETH QRL, be included in Enclave, or will we be waiting for smart contracts to be able to swap?
Atomic swap is not in the roadmap for now. So after proof of stake, priority will be the smart contract, and then the things like atomic swap would be possible. So it is not possible for now. We need to wait for the smart contract.
So the smart contracts are going to be really interesting, right? That's what put Ethereum on the map. All intelligent blockchains are moving to smart contracts. There's additional things that are being put in the block space, like parachaining and increasing interoperability with smart contracts. But from what I can see, it doesn't look like smart contracts are being obsoleted by any other technology. So I think that this makes a really good move for the project. Does that sound about right to you, Kaushal?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Excellent. Next question. Ari Paul posted a critique of proof of stake on Twitter a few weeks ago that I'd like to get your thoughts on. And he's wondering if this is going to be a long-term issue or problem for QRL. So the first one is, this is Ari Paul. Looks like it's a Twitter post. In my opinion, a huge part of the system being sustainably decentralized is that it must be nearly impossible for a cartel to punish defectors. OPEC can function as an oil cartel limiting production only if they can detect and punish a member's excess production. So if proof of work requires the ability to mine pseudo-anonymously, without that you'd likely get mining cartels that fully centralize control. Currently cartels can form, but they can't know if a member is secretly mining outside of the cartel. In proof of stake, if a majority of staking power is held by entities that can identify one another, and if they can spot defection, they're probably incentivized to form a cartel and collude. It's kind of weird, but decentralization requires that defectors can get away with defection. I mean, the last statement's kind of interesting and certainly true. Pseudo-anonymity and decentralization, enabling the dark side and the light side, if you will. But go ahead, Kaushal.
Yeah, so I agree with the points to some extent, but such as proof of work allows you to mine pseudo-anonymously and you can easily change your mining hardware to mine outside the cartel by pointing your hardware to a different pool and using a new mining address. So basically, a new mining address makes it harder for the cartel to identify your new identity over the network. So yeah, I agree to some extent, but in proof of stake, if you are staking, let's say if you are a part of some group or cartel who act together, in case you would like to leave the group and you'd like to have a new identity, you need to move your funds from one address to another, which means you can still be traced by the cartel. Though that doesn't mean there are no ways to set up a new identity. The process could be complex in case of proof of stake compared to proof of work, but it is still possible. You just need to use an exchange and you can establish uh, a new identity such that uh, you cannot be detected by the cartel. And with the coins having algorithms which allows anonymous transaction, in such a case, you even don't need an exchange. You can simply move your funds that you are using to stake in proof of stake from one address to another address, and basically no one will be able to identify who received this amount of staking. So in coins having such kinds of algorithms which allows anonymous transaction, it will be much more easier to move funds and to establish a new identity. But yeah, in the coins like QRL, you can still use exchanges to establish a new identity, but it will be a little bit more complicated compared to proof of work.
I was thinking about this question as I was reading it as you were talking. So, all right, so in proof of work consensus mechanisms, right? You have the infamous 51% Sybil attack, right? And with 51%, you can maliciously bend some blocks to your will. But proof of stake, being fundamentally different. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is between if you have a collusion on chain with the same wallet, or if you have collusion off chain. Because with proof of stake, the return is just the staked amount that you get, and you could collude on the backside. But it's not like the more you stake, it's a progressive. The higher percentage you stake, the higher you get. And with a 51%, if you once you get above that 51% magic number, that enables you to perform the Sybil attack. But with proof of stake, if you get above 51%, okay, you have 51% of voting if the chain does on-chain voting. But let's just say you could just collude off-chain. It doesn't have to be on-chain. So it's a good question, and I haven't thought about it fully through, but I'm not sure that there's a big difference there that it matters, because you could just from what I understand, I think you could just do anything off-chain and just coordinate rather than having to do it on-chain. What do you think? Any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah, I mean, you can coordinate together to misbehave on the network. So it could be like a group of people who own that 51% stake on a proof of stake may decide to ignore any blocks coming from a specific staking address. And what they can do is like simply ignore that block and simply build a new block uh, on another fork. So if they try to do that, in that case, a specific staking address will always be ignored and he will not be able to get any staking reward. It's just because those 51% uh, cartel is simply ignoring all the blocks coming from him. So these kinds of attack possible on proof of stake. And such a case, the thing is, the cartel is harming itself, harming the network, and so dishonest behavior of the cartel may result into the drop in the price of the coin itself, which means like the stake value of the cartel has been reduced. So, but yeah, the attack is possible even if the cartel knows that whatever he is doing is going to harm himself. The cartel can still make an attack for a certain period of timeline.
Yeah, definitely. That's a second good point too. It's like having a savings account. If you can be a bad actor and add money, through malicious ways into your savings account but at the same time, it's going to crash the value of the dollar. Because of how relatively
Yeah,
small that blockchain ecosystem is. Is that really worth it? Um, I don't know. If I had a big stake, honestly, if I had a big stake and I had, and if I had 50% of something, game theory, my perception of game theory would be that I'm going to do whatever it takes to maintain the trust of the community, to incentivize others and myself around me to make sure that everything is being operated, everything is done valid. So that's my take on it. But proof of stakes, still relatively new tech. I think the community, the blockchain community as a whole, still probably gonna have some things to learn and figure out. Good question, though.
yeah, that's true.
Next question: has the team decided to go 100% proof of stake, and has QRL ruled out a hybrid? I'm assuming that means proof of stake, proof of work hybrid.
Well, yes, for now we have decided to go with 100% proof of stake. We are not considering to have any hybrid solution such as proof of stake and proof of work. The DevNet on which we are working is completely based on the proof of stake. So, yeah,
I don't know if there's probably some chains out there that do hybrid. I don't know if I've heard of any. I haven't looked, I haven't
yeah, there
taken
are
the
many.
time to look any up either.
I have seen like coin Decred has made it like proof of stake plus proof of work. So it's kind of thing like with proof of stake you are having some advantage, but if there is some kind of disadvantage in proof of stake, you can set off that with having a hybrid version.
So, next question. Will there be the use of master nodes on the QRL network with the move from proof of work to proof of stake?
We try our best to avoid any kind of centralization. So the master nodes will result into some sort of centralization, and this is why there will be no master nodes while we will be migrating from proof of work to proof of stake.
Sounds good. Next question. With the switch to proof of stake, will there be a seesaw algorithm implemented to handle the payout of staked Quanta, or how will that be handled?
Currently, we have not decided how the rewards will be distributed among the block proposer and attesters. In the DevNet version, we have a fixed amount of reward. So basically, both the block proposer and attesters will get the same amount of reward. The discussion on the block reward will happen once we are good with the DevNet performance. So you have to wait to get the exact answer, like what will be the algorithm that we will be using to handle the payout for the staked quantum.
Sounds good. Thank you. Next question. How would multisig addresses stake? Do all participants have to agree on the stake or just one? How would that even work?
For now, we are not allowing the multisig addresses to be involved in staking. So you can use only the dilithium public keys for staking, given that dilithium public keys has already been associated with your XMSS address. In order to associate the dilithium public keys, you need to make a stake transaction on QRL blockchain. But yeah, multisig address is not going to stake on the upcoming POS. At least for now, it is undecided whether we are going to support multisig address on the proof of stake. So you need to wait for that. Maybe we can have a more clear answer after the testnet.
So I think the other half of that question the same thing would be true for Ethereum.
No, I think in the Ethereum, I did check like in order to stake, you just need to make a transaction on the smart contract and need to lock your funds. So based on what I have seen like couple of months before, I think uh, it is possible to use multisig addresses on Ethereum to stake on it 2.0. I need to try that on the Ethereum 2.0 testnet before I can say exactly anything. But what I remember that it is possible to stake using the multisig address on Ethereum network.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Kaushal. All right, next question. Regarding the Raspberry Pi, is Raspberry Pi suitable as a proof of stake node? And is any special hardware required? I think that there's definitely a distinction between how proof of work and proof of stake work as far as the instruction sets. I'm pretty sure. I know you know the answer to that, so I'm going to let you run with it.
Okay, so I remember in the year 2017, Raspberry Pi was able to stake on QRL testnet. Those days, the project was limited to XMSS cryptography and proof of stake, but later we added some other cryptography libraries such as Dilithium, Kyber, and moved to proof of work such as Kryptonite and randomness. Many of these libraries requires the AES NI support, and that's the only thing that is stopping the Raspberry Pi from staking for POS. We are looking into possible options, and it will be great if we can make it possible for Raspberry Pi to run a QR PoS node, but we have to try this maybe on the testnet. This is not our priority right now, so we have to wait for the testnet, and then we can see what we can do to make it compatible with the Raspberry Pi.
I verified this out as well too, without any very special software emulation modification. You won't be able to run a node without that AES NI. And for those that aren't familiar with it, it is an instruction at the processor level. It's an instruction set that Kryptonite requires in order to do advanced encryption.
I mean, there is still possibility you can simulate this AES NI support by having some software support. I remember there was a way to implement the ASANI in software mode.
So might be possible, not a priority.
Yeah,
good question.
It is possible, but it's not a priority right now.
Sounds good. Thank you. Next question. Are you considering to use a quantum secure external randomness beacon like the one from League of Entropy to construct the robust quantum resistance of proof of stake? If so, is this not a possible single external point of failure? Are other non-external options of true randomness validation? How are you solving this problem? So this gets down to consensus on a source of entropy within a distributed model, which is obviously a challenge no matter how you look at it. And I know that there's different ways to do that, and we've talked about this on the team. But go ahead. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so randomness is still a big challenge. League of Entropy is a good project. They have taken an initiative to build decentralized random beacon. But when it comes to use something outside the QRL blockchain itself, there comes some risks, such as single point of failure or some kind of hard fork on the source generating randomness. At this stage, it will be very early to say anything about using an external source of randomness. So for now, I can only say we are looking to use some hashing functions such as randomx to hash some data from the blockchain itself for thousands or maybe millions of times. And the output of that hash will be used as an entropy. This hashing is expected to happen once every batch. This is what we are going to do on DevNet. So that's what our plan for the external randomness. That's what our plan for the randomness. And maybe it could change while we will be working on the testnet. It is not yet finalized, but for now, there is no plan to use any external randomness beacon.
Randomness by itself is actually very interesting because it seems like something that's relatively benign, but in blockchain, right, technology, I mean, if you can control randomness, you could theoretically control the next block proposer, manipulate the blockchain. It becomes how do you get real, true random numbers or as close as possible to real randomness. And then once you achieve that, how do you get everyone to agree and know about it so as not to slow down transactions or the blockchain itself? Definitely it's something that's, I know that's still evolving too, as far as blockchain is concerned. So does that sound accurate, Kaushal?
Yeah, that's totally accurate. So even this randomness thing is a very small thing, but it's itself a very critical and a big challenge in the blockchain industry.
Definitely. Last question. Will the foundation be staking its Quanta? And if so, do you know what percentage of the foundation's Quanta would be staked?
Yeah, foundation will be staking its Quanta. I'm not sure with the exact numbers, like how many Quanta will the foundation keep in reserve. Though I can say for now, foundation may stake more than 70% of the Quanta. Although you will have the exact numbers before the proof of stake hard fork. So you need to wait for that time.
So it sounds like those numbers will be published. And I thought about that one a little bit. There's a balance too. On one hand, you're giving return back to our wonderful community, for being involved in the project and for staking their Quanta and supporting it. You're able, on one hand, you're balancing that with staked Quanta that the foundation uses, which can be used funding for the project, which can include, running the project longer, future enhancements, stuff like that. So there's a balance there. I don't know exactly what the best answer for that would be, but sounds like something would be decided and would be published and transparent. So big key right there is transparency, right? Things aren't being done in a vacuum. The open source, the transparency, everything's still being within the spirit of blockchain technology.
Yeah, that's true. It will be transparent, but the numbers will be, it will be definitely shared before the hard fork. So everyone will know how much Quanta the foundation will be using to stake on the proof of stake.
And I think that's fair too, because it'll allow other people to calculate their returns outside of any foundation staked Quanta that would be persistent. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's our interview with Kaushal for the AMA on proof of stake. I want to thank Kaushal for your time in answering the community's questions, and I also want to thank the community for submitting your questions. And I hope this answers or fills in some of the blanks regarding proof of stake. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to be here. We wouldn't be able to do what we do. So thank you for your support. If you did like this video, be sure to smash that like button so you can get updates on future videos regarding blockchain technology and its collision with quantum computers. Until next time, thank you and talk to you later.